For the last 18 months or so, I've been working on making a roguelike twin-stick shooter. Why? I just like making games. If I go too long without doing game design work, I will metamorphose into a sea urchin. I was fortunate that I found some tutorials covering basically everything I needed to get started, not only moving around, which is simple enough, but setting up a constructor for bullet behavior. All of the bullets are actually the same object with different variables. Even having a shotgun-style effect of shooting multiple bullets at once is still part of the same variable structure. It means that I can quickly make different bullet configurations for enemies, or adjust how the player's weapon operates on the fly, which is good because that's the game's primary gimmick. The upgrades you collect in this roguelike aren't better weapons or items like most similar roguelikes, but things that change your bullet behavior. I've nicknamed this project RBH, meaning Reverse Bullet Hell, a reference to the fact that by the end of the run, the player should basically be a boss fight from a more traditional bullet hell game. I'll try to catch you up to speed quickly, but this is the work of over a year of development. I started out with some basic enemies, 7 in total. They come in a variety of flavors like Walking Bomb, Missile Turret, and Guy with Shotgun. Next up was procedural generation. I wanted something like Binding of Isaac or Cult of the Lamb with individual rooms that you travel between, but GameMaker Studio limitations forced me to reevaluate. Instead, I went with a more open maze design. That, too, I struggled with finding a way to do it that I liked. A lot of people really like the simplicity of making each room a text string, which, that's fine, but it's also highly inflexible. While looking for a solution to this, I stumbled across Gen Scripts by Cloaked Games, which is by no exaggeration everything I wanted and also possibly actual magic. I spent a lot of time after that fiddling with various things. Critical hits, effects that trigger when you land a critical hit, status effects, all of which ended up being slightly more complicated than I anticipated. Adding in damage numbers, both to better visualize player upgrades and because it made bug testing easier. All kinds of stuff. Adding in a dodge mechanic was actually extremely easy, and it gave me an excuse to convert the player's code into a finite state machine, which in layman's terms means that it's easier to give the player multiple actions. Other games use this for things like healing, climbing ladders, reloading, etc. It's also frequently used in NPC AI. After adding in the possibility for bullets to home in on specific targets, I also added in what I'm currently calling drones until I have a better name for them. These are companions or weapons or whatever that follow the player around and either automatically attack enemies or attack when the player does, depending on the specific drone. Next up was actually giving the enemies AI? Sure, they could move and shoot, but they had all the intelligence of a single-celled organism. Enemies, excluding the stationary ones, moved in a straight line towards the player, meaning that they would simply ram into any obstacle between you, and if they were lucky, they would then slide against the object until they reached the end and were able to continue moving in a straight line. GameMaker Studio's built-in navigation zones aren't quite as potent as, say, Unreal Engine, but they got the job done. It was around this point that I got sick of all the placeholder assets you've been seeing and finally started doing some actual art for this game. And that more or less brings us to where I am today. Here's the state the game's in right now. I'm pretty pleased with this progress. The actual foundations of the game are solidly in place, leaving me free to simply make more stuff for it. New upgrades, new enemies, new drones, bosses, etc. I've even been streaming some of that over on Twitch. The VODs are on this channel as well. And that's why I'm extremely thankful to my patrons over on Patreon. Even $1 a month goes a long way to making sure that I can keep working on this and future game projects. If you like what you see here and you want more of it, please consider joining. I do post in-progress builds there for people to play, and patrons get those early. I've also got about 60 articles on Patreon solely dedicated to documenting everything in this video, but in more detail, all completely free to read. You can also check me out on Twitch if you want to see me working on this live. Something that I've noticed from a lot of devlogs you see on YouTube is a lack of planning. A lot of these videos are checklists of things the designers thought was neat, and frequently they are cool, but a lot of them end up getting cut a few videos later because they didn't work out. This is a problem easily rectified with a game design document, but to be fair, if I hadn't gotten a degree in game design, I probably wouldn't have heard of them either. But I did, so I have one, and I promise to see this game through. But looking at the timestamp, we're coming up at the end of the video here, so I guess that means I should do the obligatory YouTube thing. Blah blah blah, like, comment, subscribe, and circle over witticism about YouTube's algorithm. I do hope you all enjoyed not only the video, but what you've seen of Project RBH. This is, after all, a solo developer project. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you all again.